We're joined now by Dr. Amy Hagerman, our Ag Policy Specialist. Amy, I understand there's some new information about drought assistance.
Yeah, we've had some really droughty weeks here in Oklahoma lately, and USDA has several programs for drought assistance, especially for our cow-calf producers and other kinds of livestock that are dependent on grazing and forage. The first one is the Livestock Forage program. This is a familiar program to us here in Oklahoma. We've used it before, and it really comes down to those weeks in D2 drought, 8 consecutive weeks in D2 drought, or any number of weeks in D3 drought or greater determines what your payment level is going to be under that program. Currently, we have 19 counties in Oklahoma that are eligible for this program. However, because drought conditions are continuing to evolve here in the state, we may see more counties that are eligible. So if producers feel like maybe they fall into those drought categories in their county, then I would encourage them to contact their Farm Service Agency office if their FSA office hasn't already contacted them.
And we can show those counties on our screen. It's mainly the western half of the state, but as we know, these conditions change week to week. So kind of do your homework, ask some questions, and then move forward.
Yeah, it's mainly up in the panhandle of the state, and then counties that come down into that southwestern part of the state, where we do historically experience more drought. But as Wes covered in his segment, we may see that start to move through the state as conditions evolve.
So the best bet is to kind of do your homework and then check with the FSA office, right?
Absolutely. We also have a new program for this year. It's an expansion of an existing program, Emergency Assistance for Livestock, Honeybees, and Farm-Raised Fish, but this time we're just talking about the livestock. There is a new program where they will pay transportation costs for hay that has to be brought in for those livestock that are dependent on grazing. Again, talk to your FSA office about exact eligibility requirements. It does, again, depend on those weeks in drought.
And that sounds like a good benefit. Of course, that transportation cost can add up very quickly.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else policy-wise on your radar that we may need to keep in mind?
So again, kind of coming back to drought, coming back to natural disaster, there has been some discussion and some authorization for expanding the WIP Plus program. That's the Wildfire Hurricane Indemnity Program Plus. That plus includes drought. So for 2019 and 2020, we saw an expansion of that program to include drought payments. And there is some potential for that to be reauthorized for 2021 drought. It also has the potential to be reauthorized for that polar vortex that we experienced back in February and that extreme cold weather. Sometimes these drought programs work that way, where there's a little bit of a delay in when the program eligibility is announced. We haven't seen any final rules on this yet. We haven't seen USDA make any announcements on it yet, but it's just something to keep on the radar.
Is there a website that people can check every so often so they can stay up to date?
Absolutely. So the www.farmers.gov site always has the latest information and the latest updates. Specifically for the LFP program, the Farmers website has maps, it has the lists of counties with eligibility, and it has those payment rates that individuals can look at.
Great. Sounds like a good place to start too. Thanks a lot, Amy. And for a link to the website that Amy mentioned, go to sunup.okstate.edu.